Jayanti of the great Adi Shankaracharya. No, not Vyasa's birthday, Akhilesh. For once, you did not get that right. Vyasa's Jayanti is Guru Purnima, is it not? And comes in that Ashada Masam, no? Later, July, on that Purnima. But tomorrow is, we are celebrating worldwide the Jayanti of the great Adi Shankaracharya, whom I'm sure you've all heard of. Just 1 minute. If you still don't know who that is, okay, this is from my altar, Adi Shankaracharya, and this is from Sringeri. You know, Sringeri is a very famous Adi Shankaracharya's madam is there, mat. So tomorrow we will have a very special puja, yeah, and I want all of you to take part in the puja, and instructions I will post in the group, yeah. Simple puja you all will do, yeah, and incense and so on. We will learn how to do puja also tomorrow, okay. But before that, today what we can do for Adi Shankaracharya Jayanti is we have to, I have to give you share permission. Okay, so you know we are going to have some kind of a like a contest, you know. So each one of you can draw a Shankaracharya, yeah, or you can write some 100 words about Adi Shankaracharya, yeah, any stotram you know about the great Shankaracharya, what he did for our Sanatana Dharma in Bharatam, okay. Now, I'm going to share with you some drawings. Now, this is for the seniors, okay. Now, the juniors can do any kind of painting or an art form on an Ishtadevata, yeah. Ishtadevata, like you see, you're seeing Saraswati, huh? And the next one, this is, I think it's Durga or Mahalakshmi. Okay, next one. This is Saraswati, this is Mahalakshmi, yeah. And Krishna, Gopala Krishna, Hanumanji, Anjaneya, Durga Devi. You know, these, my children here, that is my students, have just painted these, okay. So you can draw and paint or just color, that is up to you. This is the great Buddha. You know, we celebrate Buddha Jayanti also. This is, you know, Markandeya. I will tell you the story some other time, who was protected by Lord Shiva. Who is this? Anybody can guess? No? No guesses? Yes. Khushi, yes. Everybody guessed it right. Not Yemen. Haripriya, Yemen is a country's name. But I know you meant Yama. Okay. The Lord Yama. Okay. So, and this is our Krishna here. Geetacharya, Krishna. And who is this? I don't think you can guess this one. Or maybe somebody can. It is Lord Dakshinamurti. Okay. Dakshinamurti is called Guru Bhagavan. Okay? He sits under the banyan tree and this is how he looks. Okay. And that's it, no? Divya, anymore? Yeah. So you see here, Adi Shankaracharya is worshipping Kamakshi Devi, great devotee of Mata. Okay. So for tomorrow, you can try to paint any one form of art form or write maybe 100 words about Adi Shankaracharya or any story, you know, connected with his life, or you can make some artwork. So yesterday, see how nicely you all did the, you know, the sun. So that was a good training, no? So like that, you can cut out some figure, something you do, and we will display it tomorrow after the puja. I'm going to stop share 1 second. All right. So anybody has doubts? Everybody clear on this? Okay, Aditi, very good. And you all done your assignments also well. And teachers are correcting all the assignments, giving you feedback also. Okay, everything is going well. So today we will start with a beautiful topic and a new topic. So far we have not had it. It's about the Bhagavad Gita, and it will be taken by Divya ma'am. And you know Divya ma'am already. Okay, so we will start with the Gita session. And after that, I will announce later. Today, one more thing to add. We will do the Arati after the Bhagavad Gita session, okay, in the break. All right. So you please be ready for that also. Okay, then let us start with our first session of the day, Gita. Are you able to share, Divya? As always, prayers first. Oh, 1 second. Let me unmute you. How come I'm not able to unmute you? Something not okay here. Can you just stop share, Divya, and we'll start from the beginning? Let me unmute you first, and I will pin you also. And now we can share. Others, mute, stay muted.
Okay. Can you hear me, Amma?
Yes, great.
All right. So today we begin the session on Bhagavad Gita, but let's first begin with the prayer. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnuhu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. I'll continue with an invocation. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. All right. Now, how many of us know what the Bhagavad Gita is? So let's give some context to the whole thing. Yeah. We have two great epics in our culture. One of them is the Ramayana and the other is the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is also called the book of Dharma. Yeah. And the Mahabharata was written down by sage Vyasacharya. And the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita itself consists of 18 chapters and 700 verses in all of these 18 chapters put together. The Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, who are like friends on the battlefield of Kauravas and Pandavas, right? The Kurukshetra battlefield, that is where this conversation happens. And Krishna is teaching some of the life lessons to Arjuna, right on the battlefield. And so we all know who Krishna is, right? Lord Krishna, who is an avatar of Vishnu, one of the 10 avatars. And then we also know who Arjuna is, one of the 5 Pandavas. And he is a great archer, a strong Kshatriya. Yeah. So this is where the battle happens between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and on the battlefield is what Krishna is teaching to Arjuna, and that is the Bhagavad Gita. A total of 18 chapters, all logically split as chapters, different different kinds of teaching split into different chapters, and 700 verses in all. Okay. Now let's see today some of the verses from the Bhagavad Gita, very few important verses. Of course, we can't cover 700 verses, right? So we've picked a few verses for you all to learn, and let's see what those are. The first shloka that we've picked out for you is this one. Now, who's going to chant after me? Okay, let me chant once and then Amma will unmute one of you to chant after me, okay? Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhuhu ma te sangostva karmani. Amma, can we have someone unmuted?
Akshay, can you unmute?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now please repeat after me quarter by quarter. I'll split this shloka into 4 quarters, okay? And then we would please repeat after me. Karmanyevadhikaraste
Karmanyevadhikaraste
ma phaleshu kadachana
ma phaleshu kadachana
ma phaleshu kadachana.
ma phaleshu kadachana.
Okay, in Sanskrit we do not say fa like we say in Hindi, so we say pha. Okay, pa and pha. So can you say ma phaleshu kadachana
Ma phaleshu kadachana
ma karma phalaheturbhuhu
ma karma
phalaheturbhuhu.
phalahetu bhuhu
Yes, that's right. Ma te sangostva karmani.
ma te sanghos swakarmani.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. Ma te sangostva karmani.
Ma te sanghos swakarmani.
Excellent. Amazing. Thank you so much. Can we have one more volunteer, Amma,
Yes,
to chant the same shloka?
we have Jia. Jia, can you unmute?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jia.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Karmanyevadhikaraste
Karmanyevadhikatasye
ma phaleshu kadachana
ma phaleshu kadachana
ma karma phalaheturbhuhu
ma karma phaleheturbhuhu
ma te sangostva karmani.
ma te sangostva karmani.
Excellent. That was Jay, I think, right?
Yes.
All right. So if you noticed the way I was pronouncing karmanyevadhikaraste. So some letters in Sanskrit we have to put more stress on. Of course, Hindi students will be familiar with this. I mean, for those of you whose mother tongue is Hindi, you have 2 different pronunciations, right? K, kha and g, gha, etc. So it's very important when we chant shlokas in Sanskrit to follow all these simple pronunciation rules so that we pronounce the right word with the right meaning. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भूः मा ते संगोस्त्व कर्मणि. All right, so that's how it's supposed to be pronounced correctly. Now let's briefly read the meaning of what is in this slide. Yeah, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but not to the results of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. That might sound a little bit complex to you all to understand, but we have put it down in a very simple format in the next slide. All right. So this verse is an extremely popular verse in Bhagavad Gita. And people all over the world, those who do not even know what Bhagavad Gita is, will know this verse. It is that popular, right? And it tells us about the proper spirit of work or duty. Now, those again seem like complex terms, right? But no. Now, all of us play some roles in our lives, right? You all are kids, and so you all also play different roles in your life. For example, with respect to your studies, when you go to school, when you go attend classes, what are you? You're a student. That is the role you play. And to your parents, you are children. You're either their mother, their daughter, or their son. That is also a role to play, right? And then to your aunts and uncles, your nieces and nephews, to your siblings, you're an older brother or a younger brother, an older sister or a younger sister. And to your neighbor, you're a neighbor. To your friends, your friends. So we all play different roles in our lives, and each of these roles has a certain duty to play, a certain duty to do, right? That is simply what we're talking about here. Now let's see what the first bullet says. Do your duty with focus on the action rather than on the result. Do your duty with focus on the action rather than on the result. Now do your duty simply because you have to do it. Do you understand what it means? Right? We do a particular duty simply because we have to do that duty. For example, your mother, she wakes up every day and she cooks food for you, right? That's her duty, let's say. Now, what will happen if you don't do, if she doesn't do that duty for one day? Then that is when we take so many such duties for granted, right? Duty is should to be done with the focus on the duty rather than on the result. Now, let's take another example of you helping a friend of yours when he needs it. Now, when you're doing the duty, should you be focusing on the help that you're doing, or will you be thinking, now I'm helping him today, which means he will help me tomorrow when I need it? That is wrong, right? So that is a result which you're expecting from the duty that you're doing, which is wrong. So we should never have expectations on the result. So we have to do a particular duty simply because it has to be done. Now that is what a part of this shloka says. Now, we also have to do this duty as an offering to Bhagavan. Whatever simple duty you do, whatever you do from morning to night, whatever simple tasks you do, you're helping your mother out in the kitchen, or you're putting the clothes away, you're washing the dishes for her, or you're putting the washed dishes away, or you're folding the clothes. Small things around that you do around the house can also be duty, right? Do every duty with focus on the action itself rather than on the result, and do it as an offering to Bhagavan. Okay. Now, the second bullet point on the slide says, do your duty without being attached to the expectation of the result. Now, why do we say this? So, suppose you're preparing for your exams. Of course, you want to do well in your exams. Is it wrong to expect that result? Not really, right? We all do something with some expectation. Of course, expecting a friend to help you in return is wrong, but then doing a duty with doing a particular action with some expectation is not too wrong, right? For example, studying for exams, or let's say, for example, you want to go catch the bus. That is also an action that we do. And you have the expectation that you have to catch the bus. So this is not too wrong, but don't be too attached to the result, right? And the third bullet says, whatever be the outcome of your action, accept it as a gift from God. So we all know that we can only do what we can do, and then the result will still be either positive or negative or even neutral, right? What is in our hands is the duty itself and not the result. We do not have full control of what the outcome is going to be. For example, you might prepare very well for your exam. You will do your duty as a student by practicing, by doing a lot of homework around it, by doing your daily lessons every day. But still, in an exam, the outcome could be a little different than what you expect it to be, right? So, whatever be the outcome of your action, accept it as a gift from God. Now, this is what the third bullet says. So, you have to be calm about the results of your actions, not too sad or not too happy, but whatever it is, be open to what the result can be and accept it as a gift from God. Now let's take the example. When you go to a temple and in the altar, the priest finishes the puja and then comes and gives you a prasadam, right? We all understand the word prasadam. So when we take the prasadam as a gift from God, we simply take it as a gift from God, right? The priest gives you a prasadam, and your elders will tell you, even if you don't like that prasadam, eat a little bit of it because it is prasadam. I'm sure many of us have heard this, right? The prasadam is always considered as a gift from God. It might be a pulyodare, it might be a panchamritam, it can be anything, right? It might be a milk payasam. So it can be so many different things that are coming out of the altar from the hands of the priest. So we take it simply as a gift from God and we eat it. So similarly, whatever be the results of the duty that we do, we accept it as a gift from God. This is what the shloka is telling us. Now, you might get this question. If you do not have control over the results of your action, then why should I do the action? Right? Right? So that is not the right question to ask. So that is why this shloka also says, do not avoid duty. You cannot simply resign to fate and say, whatever I do, I'm not going to be having control over the results. So let me not do it. That's not the right way to do it. So do not avoid the action itself. Do not avoid the duty itself just because you do not have control over the result. So that is what the fourth bullet on the slide is saying. So now let's see another example. You have to catch a bus to go to a destination, right? You know that the bus comes to a particular bus stop at a particular time. So you plan yourself accordingly. You plan your wake up time, you plan your bath time, your breakfast time, you plan the time by which you should get out of your house in order to be able to walk, say, 7 minutes to the bus stand and be there in time for the bus. Now you may do all of this correctly, right? We reverse plan, right? You have to leave the house at such and such a time so that you have 7 minutes to walk to the bus stop. And if I have to leave the house at such a time, then I have to bathe at such a time, then I have to eat at such a time, then I have to wake up at such a time. So you usually reverse plan, right? So now you've done all this perfectly. You've woken up at the time you wanted to, you've had your shower at the time you wanted to, you've had your breakfast, and you also leave the house at the time you wanted to. You make it in 7 minutes to the bus stop, but still there could be uncertainties, right? When you reach the bus stop, the bus might have already left, the bus might be there right at the time when you're reaching the bus stop and you're able to board it, or the bus, you might have to wait for the bus. So there are so many different results that can happen in spite of the fact that you have done your part right. So that is why we say, whatever be the result, be open to accept it, right? That's what the next slide says. Keep calm and carry on. Whether the results are positive or negative, be ready to accept both. This is especially true in cases where we do actions with big expectations, right? You might have been preparing very well for some competitive exam, let's say, but things don't turn out the way you expected to. So whether it is positive or negative, be ready to accept both. That's very important, right? Be ready to accept both, and as a gift from God, whatever the result is, be ready to accept it as a gift from God. Maybe He has different plans for you. So whatever duty you do as a gift for God, you do as an offering to the Bhagwan, and whatever result you get, also be ready to accept it as a gift from Bhagwan. All right, now let's quickly revise what these 4 points are. Do your duty with focus on the action rather than on the result. And do your duty simply because you have to do it. The second point says, don't be too attached to the result. And the third point says, whatever be the outcome of your action, now accept it as a gift from Bhagwan. And the fourth point says, just because you do not have control over the results, do not avoid the action itself. All right? I hope that was clear. Let me chant the shloka now once again. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhuhu ma te sangostva karmani. All right. All right. Now let's move to the second shloka. The second shloka is also quite a famous one. And this is also a food prayer. You would have learned from Jayashree ma'am, right? Different times of the day, we have different prayers for different activities that we do in our daily life. So she taught you one food prayer. Can any of you tell me in chat box how that starts? The food prayer that she taught you. Annapurna, Rishi and Kandur. Annapurne, yes. Annapurne Sadapurne, that's the food prayer that she taught you. Now, this is also a food prayer. All right. This is also a prayer which is chanted before the meal time. Now, let's see what the prayer is. I'm going to chant it twice and then we will have two of you chant it after me. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. So here the only strong letter, strong pronunciation is on samadhina, right? So make note of it when you're repeating after me. Amma, can we now pick a couple of volunteers?
Pick up Nitika. Nitika, unmute.
Yes, ma'am.
Nitika, all right. Nitika, after me. Brahmarpanam.
Brahmapanam.
Brahmarpanam.
Brahmarpanam.
No, not panam, just pa, right? Okay. I was stressing on the ra. I thought I did not hear you say Brahmarpanam. So I said Brahmarpanam.
Brahmarpanam.
Brahmahavihi.
Brahmahavihi.
Brahmagnau.
Brahmagnau.
Brahmanahutam.
Brahmanahutam.
Brahmaiva.
Brahmaiva.
Tena gantavyam.
Tena gantavyam.
Brahma karma.
Brahmakarna.
Samadhina.
Samadhina.
Brahma karma.
Brahmakarma.
Samadhina.
Samadhina.
Okay, now I was splitting into very, very short phrases. Can we do a little longer phrases? Let's do quarter by quarter now, okay?
Okay.
Quarter is quarter of the shloka, right?
Okay.
Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi.
Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi.
Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam.
Brahmarnam Brahmanahutam.
That's right. Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam.
Brahmagnam Brahmanahutam.
Brahmaiva tena gantavyam.
ब्रह्मैव्य तेन गन्तव्यम्
No, there's no tha, just gantavyam, the normal tha, okay?
गन्तव्यम्
Brahmaiva tena gantavyam.
ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यम्
Brahma karma samadhina.
ब्रह्मकर्ण समाधिना.
Karma. Are you saying karna? It's karma.
Yes, I
Brahma
said
karma samadhina.
ब्रह्मकर्म सिनाधिना
Samadhina.
समाधिना.
Excellent, Nitika. Thank you so much. You're doing so great. Can we have the next volunteer, Amma?
Ujjwal is the next one.
Okay. MV Ujjwal.
Ujjwal, unmute. He is there or maybe not. Yes.
Ma'am.
Hi, Ujjwal.
Hi, ma'am.
Brahmarpanam.
ब्रह्मार्पणं
Brahma havihi.
ब्रह्महविः
Brahmagnau.
ब्रह्माग्नौ
Brahmanahutam.
ब्रह्मणाहुतं
Brahmaiva tena gantavyam.
ब्रह्मैन तेन गन्तव्यम्
Brahma karma samadhina.
ब्रह्मकर्म समाधिना.
Excellent, Ujjwal. You're doing so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, now I will repeat the shloka 2 more times, and I want all of you to chant along with me with your microphones muted, of course, in your own spaces. Okay, so that you get familiar with the shloka and so that you can repeat it before you eat your lunch. Brahmarpanam Brahma havihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina Brahmarpanam Brahma havihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. All right, now let's read here what the meaning of this shloka is. For those who are completely absorbed in God consciousness, the offering is Brahman, the ladle with which it is offered is Brahman, the act of offering is Brahman, and the sacrificial fire is also Brahman. Such persons who view everything as God easily attain Him. Okay, now let's see in simple terms what the meaning is. So at the bottom right corner of this slide, you see something, right? What is that? Answers in chat box. Bottom right corner of this slide, you see something. Oh, can you click on hide? Okay, I already did. Okay, thank you. So bottom right of the slide, what do you see? I thought I got a very nice picture. Nobody is able to recognize that, is it?
It's coming very small, Divya. Maybe you can enlarge it.
I'm not able to see the chat box if I'm in presentation mode. That's why. Okay, now are you able to see it?
It's still small, but yeah, we can see it. Oh, now enable chat. If anybody knows, please. Ganesh, they're saying. Krishna eating butter.
Oh, Krishna eating butter is on the left hand side, of course. But yeah, on the bottom right is a Agni Kundam, right? A Homa Kundam. So now this prayer is about what is a yajna and what we offer in a yajna And then we're comparing everything to God himself, right? I also told you that this is the food prayer, but let's see later how it is connected to food. Now you see on the second box, right? When a yajna, a fire ritual is performed, there is a performer, the fire, the offering, and the ladle used. Now, all of them are simultaneously the same supreme principle, the Brahman or the Parama Brahma. Yeah. Now, I'm going to stop sharing for a bit. And so I can see all of your faces and the chat box. Amma, you can maybe disable sharing so somebody doesn't snatch it. All right. So now this shloka, what it tells us is that whenever there is a yajna being performed, there is a fire, right? We all know this. Now, the fire is nothing but God Himself, all right? And whatever we offer into the fire, we usually offer ghee among other offerings, other items that we are using, right, for offering. So now that offering that we put into the fire is also God Himself. And then the shloka also says the spoon with which the ghee is offered into the fire is also God Himself. And then the act of offering, somebody is putting that ghee into the fire, is also God Himself. So basically, what this shloka is trying to tell us that everything around us is God Himself. And when we think like that, it is easy for us to get very close to God. All right. So that is what this shloka is telling us. Now, how is this related to food that we eat? We already saw, right, when we did the lesson on Panchamahabhutas, we saw that the fire, the digestive fire in our body, in our stomach, is what helps us digest the food that we eat. So now the digestive fire is compared to the yajna fire. The fire from a yajna is compared to the digestive fire. So the digestive fire is God Himself. And now what can compare to the ghee that we are offering to the fire in a yajna? The food that we eat, right? The food that we eat is also hence God Himself, right? And the hand that we are using to eat the food, just like the hand that the ladle that is being offered, used to offer the ghee into the agni. Yeah, the ladle. So the hand that in our case, in the action of eating, the ladle is our hand itself. We use the hand to put the food into the fire, into the digestive fire. And then what is the fourth one? Yes, Sahasra, everything is God. So the fourth one is what? The act of eating, right? If the act of offering ghee to the yajna is God, then the act of eating is also God, right? That is how this shloka directly compares to the process of eating. So, we consider very sacred this yajna that we perform, right? So, this eating yajna we do so many times a day. So, how sacred it is, how much importance we must give it. So, this shloka basically tells us about the importance of the eating process itself. How important eating is in our daily routine and how much we must respect the food and the process of eating. Yes, Adish, God is everything and everything is God. So now let's go back into sharing. Amma, can you give me the permission to share?
Yes.
So we saw when a yajna, a fire ritual is performed, there is a performer and then there is the offering, which is the ghee. Yeah, there is an offering, which is the ghee, and the ladle used to offer the ghee. All of them are simultaneously the same supreme principle, which is Bhagavan. Now, let's see, the act of eating is very similar to the act of a yajna. There is the eater, there is the digestive fire, the food, and the hand used to put the food into the fire. Now, all of them are God. And that is why it is important to respect the yajna that we do so many times a day. Understood, right? Now, that is why we say no devices, no distractions, no talking while eating food. Our elders will tell us many times, right? When you sit at the table, lunch table, dinner table, breakfast table, whatever it is, when you sit at the table to eat, do not talk, right? We've heard that a lot of times from our elders. Of course, there is a practical reason to it, because when you talk and we are trying to swallow the food simultaneously, then there are chances that the food particles enter our windpipe and then we're coughing and choking. That is something we want to avoid. But also because you should focus on the food in front of you, you should focus and give respect to the food in front of you. For example, you're talking to a friend. How would it be if you are looking into the device and talking when your friend is talking to you? That's not nice, right? Similar respect needs to be given to the food in front of us. All right. Second thing that's on the slide you can see is eat with your hand. This we already saw last time in my last session in Sanskrit, right? So we said when you eat with your hand, we are balancing the five elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas in our body, and then we are also feeling the texture of the food, the temperature of the food. We're connecting physically with the food that we are eating. Thereby, we will not overeat. So many examples of why we should eat with your hand. So many reasons of why we should eat with your hand. Now, next bullet on the slide says the half quarter quarter rule. Now, chat box, how many of you can guess what the half quarter quarter rule of eating is? Half quarter quarter rule of eating. What is this? How many of you can guess? Chat box open, Amma?
Oh, sir. It's open.
Yeah.
Eat
Eat little by little. No. How does that relate to half quarter quarter, Poshika and Suviti? Do not spill food. No. Half quarter quarter rule. Eat half of the stomach in breakfast. Okay, that is a very good guess. I think you're going to say quarter for lunch and then quarter for dinner. Okay, but that's not the right answer. Half quarter quarter rule, it's called. This is something that is mentioned in our Shastras. No, Jia, not that. Preserve the leftover food. No, our Shastras actually tell you not to eat old food, which may not be very practical for us, but half for breakfast, half for lunch, quarter for dinner. No, Vivan, no, that's not the right answer. 3-part distribution, no. Okay, now I'll tell you what the answer is. I think none of us are close. No, the breakfast, lunch, dinner split is not the answer. Half quarter quarter rule is for every meal that you're eating. Does that give you some clue? Half carbohydrates, quarter sprouts, quarter fruits. No, Akshay. Do not eat old food. Yes, that is something the Bhagavad Gita also tells us, Janvi. Yes. Eat only food while eating food. Okay. Okay, now, okay, I think we're not. Akhilesh. Akhilesh is, oh my God. All right, that's the right answer, Akhilesh. Very good. So, yeah. So half the stomach we should fill with solid foods, and then quarter of the stomach with liquid foods like payasam, water, rasam, buttermilk, etc. And the other half must be left empty, right? The other quarter must be left empty so that the act of digestion can move around the things that we just ate and the digestion can happen properly. So that essentially means that we should never eat to our stomachs full. The moment you eat, if you're feeling, oh, I have eaten so much, oh my God, I'm feeling so full and heavy, then that's not the right way of eating. Okay. Half food means half the stomach is filled with solid foods, and then another quarter of the stomach is filled with liquid foods, and the other quarter must be left empty so that the act of digesting can happen properly. The digestive fire needs to move around the things we eat. That's basically what the half quarter quarter rule is. So next time when you feel too full, when you feel so heavy and drowsy after a meal, remember the half quarter quarter rule and do it right from then on. Okay. So no overeating, No feeling too full and too heavy after eating. Now, what is the next one on my slide? It said sattvic foods. Let me not go back into sharing. It said sattvic foods, right? Oh, I'm already sharing. Okay, then I'll show you. Sattvic foods, it says. Now, what is sattvic food? Sattvic food is that which is light on our stomach, that does not make us to feel heavy, make us feel too heavy, and basically plant-based foods, right? Animal-based foods are not sattvic foods. So that which is meat which is gotten from killing and bloodshed of animals is not sattvic. Anything that we get from plants, vegetarian food basically is sattvic food, and that which causes us to feel light and energetic is sattvic food. And there is another famous saying which says, "You are what you eat." So we're not just talking about physical aspects here. We all know, right? When we eat food, it helps us build our muscles, strengthen our bones, etc. So many different physical reactions happen with food and our body, and it helps us grow and all that. So this is something we all know. This is a direct consequence of the food that we eat. But the food that we eat also decides how our thoughts are. So if those foods that give us right positive thoughts are sattvic foods, right? On for example, on festival days, you would have seen that your grandparents advise the absence of onion and garlic, right? So there are reasons for all such rules. And on festival days, we usually eat light. All right. Also, another rule that I haven't mentioned here is that a meal must be complete in the sense of all the 6 tastes must be present in a meal, right? The 6 tastes, you all know what the 6 tastes are: salty, sweet, sour, bitter, astringent, spicy. So you know all these 6 tastes, right? Any meal must have all these 6 tastes in one, so that when you're done with the meal, you will notice that you will never have any craving. If your meal has all these 6 tastes inbuilt in it, then you will never have a craving. So a meal which has these 6 tastes is considered a complete meal. What else did I want to mention here? So the Bhagavad Gita also tells you that these 6 tastes must not be present in excess. All these 6 tastes must be present, but in moderation. So too much salty food or too much spicy food, so these are things that you should avoid. All right. So that is what this shloka is telling us. So let's revise what this shloka says after chanting it. Brahmarpanam brahmahavihi brahmagnau brahmanahutam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. So it is important to chant this prayer before a meal. Thank Bhagavan that you are able to have the meal for that day. And this prayer also helps us in purifying the food that we eat. All right. So what it says is that the act of eating is very similar to the act of a yajna. That is the eater, the digestifier, the food, and the hand which is used to put the food into the fire. Hence, everything is God Himself. And hence, it is very important to respect this yajna that we do so many times in a day. No devices, no newspaper, nothing when eating, no talking. Eat with your hand. Remember the half quarter rule. Fill only 3/4 of your stomach and leave some space for the digestive activity to happen. Do not eat all the way until up to your neck. They say, right, when you're eating too much, I've eaten until my neck. So never do that mistake. And then lastly, but not the least, have sattvic foods which help us bring light, which help us maintain our body light and also help us with positive thoughts. All right. Okay, these are the 2 shlokas which we wanted to present today, and we're almost close to time. Amma, can we do the bhajan quickly?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
I agree.
Okay, now who is, yes, Amma?
Neeraja. I picked up Neeraja.
All right, Neeraja. Can you sing this bhajan after me? Can you repeat it?
Yes.
All right. Radhe, 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 Radhe.
Radhe 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 Radhe
Radhe Govinda
Radhe Govinda
Brindavana Chanda
Vrindavan
Brindavana
Vrindavana
Chanda
Chanda
Anathanatha
Natha
Dinabandhu
Dinabandhu
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
All right, thank you. One more volunteer
Thank
for the
you.
next 2 lines.
Yeah, is Ojas there? I don't know, Ojas, I think is known by different names. So we'll go to Kabir. So I can't spot them.
You'll have to look for Sunaina and Kabir.
Ah, yes. Sunaina also. Okay, how about Gamini, Sai Charan?
All right, Gamini.
Ma'am?
Is that Gamini?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now are you ready to repeat after me the second paragraph?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Nandakumara Navanita Chora
Nandakumara Navanita Chora
Radhe Govinda
Radhe Govinda
Brindavana Chanda
Vrindavana Chanda
Anathanatha Dinabandhu
Anathananta Dinabandhu
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
So cute. Thank you so much. Okay, now I will do the full bhajan and people, you all can sing with me on mute, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Are you all ready? All of you sing with me, but of course with mute. So I will sing and all, you can sing with me, okay? Radhe 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 Govinda Brindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Brindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Nandakumara Navanita Chora Radhe Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Nandakumara Navanita Chora Radhe Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda. Now faster, okay? Radhe 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 Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Nandakumara Navanita Chora Radhe Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Nandakumara Navanita Chora Radhe Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anathanatha Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda. All right. Was that fun? I think it would have been more fun if we were all face to face, right? And we didn't have to mute you all. Thanks, Unnati. All right, now for the homework questions. Give examples of duties that you must do simply because they must be done. That is without expecting any results, right? Or without being too expecting of the results, let's say. And second question is, with what attitude should one perform duty? With what attitude should one perform duty? I did cover this in the session. Okay. And the third question is give examples of sattvic foods. All right. All right. So we will of course send across the homework questions to you, but that brings us to the end of this session. Amma, the closing prayer I will continue.
Yes, please. Huh? And
Okay.
I'll get ready for Arati.
All
Everyone
right.
who's doing Arati also can be ready.
All right. Let me display. Oh my God. To be very quick to share screen.
Maybe they will be
Pranvi,
able
I
to see
think
the
is the
Krishna
usual
behind.
not.
No, Divya, will they be able to see the Krishna behind as I do Arati? Do you display? Okay.
I will just do the closing prayer and then I'll
Yeah.
stop sharing. Okay. Closing prayer with me, please. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti.
Now, are you able to see the screen?
Amma, I'll mute yourself so that you are the focus. So if you can sing Tvameva and Kayanaj.
You can sing it or no? Okay.
Then the focus will shift to me if they are using the speaker view. That's the problem.
No, I just want them to see the Krishna behind.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody can do the aratis. Tameva mata sapita tameva tameva bandhushya sakha tameva tameva vidya dravyam tameva tameva sarvam mama deva deva kayena vacha manasendriyava बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृति स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय कृष्ण भगवान की जय Parvati Pate, Har Har Mahadev. Everybody can, after finishing the Arati, we do a complete Namaskara, offering flowers at our altar. I should have done stop share. Okay. So, very nice. So, we started off with the Gita so nicely, with the very important 2 shlokas, which you heard, and a beautiful bhajan also at the end, right? So, now what do we do next? We have a break. Okay, so we will break for about 10 minutes. We will meet back at 12:05. Okay, 5 minutes past 12. So we'll take a nice break, and then we have a special presentation and some people that I want you all to meet today, special people. Okay, see you all. See you soon.